Hi Alex, how's it going?
Good.
Awesome, that's good to hear. So let's get started. Before we do, is there anything in your English class that you're having maybe any challenges with, something that you would want to focus on a little bit more before we get started with what I have prepared today?
Uh, I don't think so.
No? All right. No, that's no problem. I mean, we're still going to get practice, but if there's anything that specifically you would want to focus on a certain day, for example, let me know, and then I can definitely pull up some sources for you to kind of and work together on. But if there's nothing, then let's get started with a little warm-up activity. Let's see. You know what? I was going to do a quote of the day, but I feel like that's a little boring. Okay, let's move on to a reading. So, this is a poem by Naomi Shahib Nye called Our Son Swears He Has 102 Gallons of Water in His Body. So, what we're going to do is just do a little this poem and then answer some questions. All right.
Okay.
So, can you please read this poem for me?
Somewhere a mistaken word distorts the sum. Divide becomes multiply, so he'd wrestle his parents, who defy what he insists. I did the problem and my teacher said I was right. Light strokes the dashboard. We are years away from its source. Remember that jug of milk? No way you're carrying 100 of those. But he knows, he always knows. We're idiots without worksheets to back us up. His mother never remembers what a megabyte means, and his dad fainted on an airplane once and smashed his head on the drinks cart. We're nice, but we're not always smart. It's the fact you live with having parents. Later, in a calmer moment, his dad recalculates the sum, and it comes out true. Instead of carrying giant waterfalls inside, we're streams, sweet pools, something to dip into with an old metal cup, like the one we took camping that nobody could break.
Awesome. So, I thought this poem was very interesting because it kind of pulls from a narrative, third person to kind of second person, like when it comes to like the we, and there's a different in perspective, which I thought was very interesting. Now, of course, you have the narrative perspective, but what other perspective are we looking through?
Um, like first person, I don't know.
No, in terms of like the characters who are in this story, right? We have a son and we have two parents. So, of course, there's a narrative like explaining the like later in a calmer moment, his dad recalculates. That's looking from a narrative perspective. But then they use we're idiots, right? We're streams, sweet pools, something to dip into with an old metal cup, like the one we took camping. So the we, who is we in this case?
Uh, the narrator,
Or all
or
right, yeah. So if it's still the narrator, then who is the narrator?
probably the child of the parents,
The child or the parents, or the child and the parents?
the child of the child.
Just the child? Okay, that I can see. Now, there is no definite answer, but I think from my understanding is that it would be kind of like a family decision, right? A family understanding. So when they say we're idiots, right? I don't think the son is thinking that. I think the parents are thinking that. Or
Oh,
streams, sweet pools, something to dip into with an old metal cup, like the ones we took camping.
I
So
don't, I don't,
I would say the parents.
uh, I don't understand. Wait, what? Could you say that again?
Yeah. So we have, of course, the outside perspective, the narrator, right? When they're looking at the family as a whole. But then we have we're idiots, right? Then we
Yeah,
have we're streams. So the we are, right, in this perspective. You say the sun, it could be, right? Nothing is confirmed, right, in this poem. And Naomi doesn't ever go into who's the we. But um, when we look at this title of the poem, right? When we look at the way things are worded, to me, it leans towards the parents. Do you understand why that would be?
Yeah, yeah.
What would be one thing you understood of why that would be?
Maybe like for the second, like later in the comment when his dad recalculates the sum that comes out true, so maybe it could be like a chronological order, like the dad realizes something and then he thinks, wait,
So the no, the question I'm asking is like what gives it away that it's the parents' perspective as well, apart from the narrators?
um,
What would be hints to say, the person who's speaking in this poem, or the perspective we're looking through, the lens, the eyes, right? The source would be the parents. So why that would be?
um, well, that, so like it says we're nice, but we're not always smart, and then before it's giving examples of like the mother and father doing not like not smart stuff. No.
Yeah, they're acknowledging that they're behind their kid, right? They're acknowledging that the fact that we're nice but not always smart. The kid wouldn't be saying, first of all, the kid wouldn't say like that about himself and the family, right? Or maybe he was, but because of the other points that you see throughout the poem, it's just the parents here.
Um, I don't I don't really get the whole poem.
Yeah, so let's dissect it a little bit. So our son swear he has 102 gallons of water in his body. So when you hear a title like that, what kind of like reaction or what kind of reaction would you expect from the parents? What reaction would you expect from the son? Or how would you
Um,
understand the son? Like, would you think that he's like a liar, a kind of a jokester? What do you think?
maybe maybe he's like little because if it's like a serious claim, then he probably is little and like doesn't have a lot of like experience. But if it's like a joke, maybe he's like a
Mhm.
jokester.
Yeah, like he's immature, right? Just by judging here in the title, we understand that the subject, right, the son
Yeah.
is immature. So this is something that we're immediately understanding. But then the poem dives in deeper. Somewhere a mistaken word distorts the sum. Divide becomes multiply, so he'd wrestle his parents. So these two lines right here, what do you think it says?
Um,
Actually, sorry, let me finish that sentence. Somewhere a mistaken word distorts the sum. Divide becomes multiply, so he'd wrestle his parents who defy what he insists.
well, it sounds like a math problem, but
It does, yeah.
isn't
Just
I
like
have no idea what this means.
so we have divide becomes multiply. So in math terms, right, it's becomes smaller to bigger, right?
Yeah.
So mistaken words distorts the sum. So in a sense here, right, at the result, it's all distorted, right? All these instances are distorted. And so mistaken words, right? Like words between the parents and the son becomes distorted.
Uh,
So So when they say somewhere a mistaken word distorts the sum, that means an instant between the son and the parents throughout their bickering, throughout their, challenges in life, something happened for something to be distorted at the end. And then
oh,
divide becomes multiply, smaller becomes bigger. So he'd wrestle his parents, right? The parents, I'm assuming, are being resistant to his claims, right? and then who defy what he insists. So that just confirms that, you know, throughout these rapid and growing problems and issues that are happening, right? And the more the parents defy the son, it becomes distorted.
Wait,
Uh,
so
yeah.
the son's trying to tell the parents something and then they
So the son is
mishear?
defying. From what are we understanding right now? With just this line, the son is defying the parents. There's an argument, right? The son is
Oh,
challenging the parents. Just like when your parents say like, no, you're not, or like they don't believe you, right? And you try to like insist like, no, this is what it is. And you try to like fight with them, right?
oh,
So it's that idea of like fighting with your parents and multiplying because of
okay.
like some mistaken words.
Oh,
Mhm. So when you're reading this poem, you can't think of it literally, right? You have to think of the concepts of majority of the words. Like divide becomes multiply. Well, we can't think of just divide and multiply as is. So what would be like equivalent? When we divide something, something becomes smaller. When we multiply something, it becomes bigger. So small becomes big
oh, so it shows how like these people can like argue over like small details and things.
and then grow to something bigger and become a
Yeah.
bigger fight
Okay.
what
Yeah.
it is originally.
Okay.
Mhm. So then the next part, I did the problem and my teacher said I was right. Lightly strokes the dashboard. We are years away from its source. So I did the problem and my teacher said I was right. It seems like the sun is speaking here, right?
Yeah.
So light strokes the dashboard. So here, what do you think?
Oh, well, the son is saying I did the problem and teacher was right, so maybe they're arguing about the problem.
Well, there is no actual math problem.
Oh, yeah, yeah, but
So here is more. So I did the problem and my teacher said I was right, right? It was more so he answers. He has an answer for the questions. He has an answer
yeah,
for his teachers, and he's right.
yeah.
So, and then light strokes the dashboard. What does that give in the poem?
Uh, they're driving.
So a dashboard, light strokes the dashboard. So yeah, it's kind of like a visual. Like when like a light bulb goes on top of your head, like a sense of realization.
Oh, wait, that's what it means.
It's like an idiom, kind of.
Oh,
It's an idiom being used here.
never heard that before.
Yeah, it's an old one, but it's an idiom, kind of just like, but the meaning behind this idiom is more so, um, oh, maybe he has a point. That sense of realization.
Oh,
When you say light strokes the dashboard, when light flickers, right, when light is present, that means there's clarity, right? You see better. So typically,
oh,
idioms that involve light usually means awareness, right? Realization.
yeah.
So seems like when they say light strokes the dashboard, the poem is saying the parents realized maybe the kid was right.
Okay,
And then this is where they kind of like start understanding that we are
okay.
years away from its source.
Well, originally I thought that was talking about the sun, but
It could
uh,
be, yeah. They're years away from
now,
their son, right? They're not as smart.
now,
Do you have a different idea?
um, no, I don't think so.
No? Well, you are right. You're thinking the sun makes the most sense here. We're years away from its source. We're years away from, when we say source, it's like the origin, right? The where you are learning from. And the parents are learning from the sun right now. They're not learning
Oh,
actual knowledge, but they're learning that the fact is that this kid is actually smart. He knows his stuff.
okay.
Now, remember that jug of milk? No way you're carrying 100 of those. This part, I don't understand why the author would add this. I think it's just more so that the jug of milk is a metaphor, right? For, just knowledge.
Yeah,
No way you're carrying 100 of those. No way he's carrying this heavy weight of knowledge.
yeah,
Because the next line, but he knows. He always knows we're idiots. So when we see a line like that, we can understand that the center of this poem is that the kid is smart and the parents are dumb.
yeah,
So any kind of line here that you see from a poem, if you understand the general messaging of the poem, it'll be so much easier to pinpoint the little idioms, the metaphors, the use of language here. It'll be easier to
yeah.
understand. So if
Okay,
so, but he always knows we're idiots. That's kind of like the core source, the core idea um of this
okay.
poem. We're idiots without worksheets to back us up. His mother never remembers what a megabyte means, and his dad fainted on an airplane once and smashed his head on the drinks card. We're nice, but we're not always smart. It's the fact you live with having parents. So, what is the author saying here? Pretty straightforward, but I think the last line is pretty interesting. It's the fact you live with having parents. What kind of commentary is the author saying here?
Uh, he's saying that his parents are dumb, but I guess he still loves them.
Hmm.
But I mean that he gets used, like I guess he gets kind of used to it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's this idea that sometimes your parents can be wrong. That's the
Um,
the idea of the last sentence. But you're really close there. Okay, in the last section or stanza, later in a calmer moment, his dad recalculates the sum and it comes out true. Instead of carrying giant waterfalls inside, were streams, sweet pools, something to dip into with an old metal cup like the ones we took camping that nobody could break. So what is the author saying here? What does the dad realize?
maybe I think it's showing how the dad realizes he was wrong
Hmm.
because of the first two lines.
Hmm.
Maybe he was thinking about a past argument and he realizes he was wrong.
Hmm.
And then streams for something different. Maybe, okay, well, this also makes no sense to me.
Hmm. So, okay, when you have a parent, right, or parents who constantly fight you, saying that you're wrong, but you know you're right, how do you typically feel as a kid?
Like angry at them and like disrespected because like they don't trust you.
Hmm. Angry and disrespected, and those are all what kind of emotions?
Negative emotions.
Negative, also intense, right?
Yeah.
So when they said instead of carrying giant waterfalls inside, right? Let's
Yeah.
look back on the title. Our son swears he has 102 gallons of water in his body. I think here we can connect it to the point where that's his emotional weight. That 102 gallons of water is not actual water, it's his emotions that he feels towards his parents.
Oh,
Hmm. Does that make sense?
so it's saying so this is like the waterfalls describing the sun, right?
The waterfalls is describing how the son, but in the perspective of the parents. So the parents thought instead of carrying giant waterfalls inside, so giant waterfalls can be considered intense, big, right? Big emotions,
Yeah.
right? So like anger, right? Disrespected, the emotions that you described, that is something that a someone that the parents thought the son felt because he always felt this way because they when someone feels like disrespected and angry because their parents are not listening to them, you would think that would be like a giant waterfall inside,
Yeah.
right? But the dad, when he's going through this realization, he said, instead of us being this, we're actually this towards our son. We're streams, sweet pools, something to dip into with an old metal cup like the one we took camping that nobody could break. What does that mean?
So,
If they're saying we're streams, sweet pools,
well, I guess they could symbolize like more passive emotions, like instead of anger, maybe like just like annoyance, but like not too intense.
yeah, annoyance, not too intense, but I think the sweet pools, something to dip into with an old metal cup. You can also look at that as like tolerable, right?
Wait,
Uh,
what?
that like
More tolerable?
it's there, we get annoyed, but we can handle it, right? We can even, actually enjoy it.
Okay.
So that's kind of describing the son's emotions towards the parents, or what the dad realizes his son's emotion towards them,
But why does it say were? Like were streams
the mom
sweet?
and the dad.
Oh,
Because remember, it's the dad realizing how his son feels. It's not describing how exactly the son feels, it's the dad realizing how the son feels.
then shouldn't it say like instead of carrying John Walls inside, he is stream?
No, because so instead of carrying giant waterfalls inside of my son, were streams in my son, were sweet pools in my son, something to dip into with an old metal cup, like the
Oh,
one we took camping in my son. Like, let's say you're describing the feeling, like, or let's say I'm describing the feeling that I think you're feeling, right?
okay.
I am a stream. I am a sweet pool. I am something to dip into with a metal cup towards my student. So
Oh,
that's what the perspective is looking at. Does that make sense?
yeah.
So then overall, now what is the poem saying?
Maybe it's saying how like after like so the parents used to argue with the son a lot,
Mhm.
but after some time the parents realized that like they shouldn't get as angry as easily and try to like sort things out in a non-aggressive way.
Really close. So you're right about the first part saying that they used to fight a lot, and the parents realized not the approach, but just realized that, that their kid is sometimes right, and sometimes they can be wrong. And what they thought how their kid felt towards them was actually a different way.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of the order of like how the story is going.
Oh, okay. I think I get it now.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of symbolism, it's a lot of like non-direct ideas, but it's the key words that we have to look at that really brings out um hints and the matter perspective, right? The matter perspective is huge with this poem. Are we looking through the son's eyes? Are we looking through the parents' eyes?
The parents.
Yeah, the parents. Yeah, majority of the time it's the parents. The only time the son was a present is I did the problem and my teacher said I was right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. So let's have you answer this question, and then we'll move on. So it has a lot of it to do with whatever we already discussed, but I just want you to write like kind of a formal response, like of a point, proof, and comment, right?
Okay.
So I'm going to send you the question in the chat so I can keep the poem shared for you. All right. So yeah. So what you're going to do is read the poem, which we have in an essay, discuss the son's relationship with his parents, and explain what the last stanza reveals. So stanza is pretty much like a section of a poem. So the last section of the poem, uh, and what it reveals about the relationship. So be sure to include specific examples from the text to support your ideas. Okay. So we did some discussion, right? We brought forth. So now I want you to write a formal response. All right.
Okay.
Any questions regarding this task?
No. How many paragraphs should it be?
Nothing too long. It could be just a paragraph, like around 5 to 7 sentences.
Okay.
Mhm. Just remember, it's a point proof comment.
What does that mean?
So you introduce the topic, the idea, right? You
Yeah.
introduce your point, the point of view you're going for. So like
Yeah.
the relationship is XYZ. Then proof. So you're gonna look into this poetry and say, we see in the poem the kindness or the reaction from the parents is showcased in the section where it says, and then you put like the exact quote. Now, of course, you don't have to say exactly what I said, but something along those lines. You can just say in the poem it says blah 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 blah, or in mention, or the son said I did the problem, and my teacher said I was right.
Okay.
And then the comment there is kind of just like your conclusion or your wrapping up sentence, just re-emphasizing your point of view.
Okay.
Mhm. All right, so you may get started.
All
I'll
right.
give you 10 minutes. How's it going so far?
Um, I kind of forgot what the carrying giant waterfalls inside and that part means. It
Which one?
still kind of confuses me, like in the second stanza when it says instead of carrying giant waterfalls inside.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
something.
So we discussed about like how this is a representation of the son's feelings towards the parents.
So like instead of like having more
Oh,
intense emotions, the son chose to have to like not get as angry.
so instead of holding resentment and anger towards the parents, he's more at peace with them, right?
Okay.
Because when we think of streams, sweet pools, something to
Yeah.
dip into, those are all kind of like tolerant,
Yeah.
so they're just there.
Okay. That's what I thought. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm like basically almost done.
Yep. I always recommend read it over once just to see if you have any common mistakes because your first draft is never your best, no matter how good you get. Trust me. Even my first
Okay.
drafts are horrible, so you always have to read it over once.
Okay. I wouldn't let me send all of it
Oh,
because 1,000 words, so I just sent the two separately.
yeah, that's all good. And I also want to mention real quick, Alex. So when we're doing poems like this or poetry like this, you might think, when the heck am I ever going to use stuff like this? Um, so whenever you have tasks or projects, when it's kind of more creative writing, there's a lot of great idioms, there's a lot of great language use that you can be using yourself. Like divide becomes multiply. That is a great way to say something from something smaller becomes something bigger. Or,
Okay.
instead of carrying a giant waterfall inside, we're streams, sweet pools. Although I know you understand, you have found it a little confusing at first, but again, that's now that you got it, I think it's such a cool thing to add into when you just want to say that, this person thought that I wasn't that crazy. I was actually just a decent human being. So the beautiful thing about poetry is that you don't have to memorize them. You don't have to necessarily understand them completely. But the takeaway from these kind of poems is that you can use them to your own works, to your own creative writing. So
Okay.
if there's anything that really resonates with you that you said, oh, that's actually a pretty cool way to say that, then take it with you, right? And then apply it for whenever you do a creative task.
Okay.
Yeah. Is there anything that spoke to you at all?
Anything that
Kind of
what?
spoke to you? Any lines?
Spum probably I don't know. I mean, well, like light strokes the dash when we were years away from the source. It gets stood out to me because
Okay. You
kind
can
of
be
like
honest too. If
well,
you say
kind of
none of it,
interesting.
then that's okay as well.
Well, yeah, that one, those two lines were kind of interesting
Okay.
because I guess I kind of knew what I meant.
Yeah.
Well, the
Would
second line,
would it be something that you would see yourself using in your
but
own work?
yeah, well,
Try it out.
more than the other lines, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, try it out, play around with it. That's the beautiful thing about writing is you're finding your own niche. Now, I'm going to edit your work, but because of time, I want you to get started with the next task. So I'm going to send
Okay,
it. Um, and then hopefully you'll get this done in advanced. Actually, okay, would you want to do a vocab task or a literature review task?
I don't mind. I get well, maybe vocab because
Vocab? Okay.
yeah.
Um, so then let me share these words. I'll have you take a screenshot of it and then so you have it with you. So these are the 5 vocab words that I have for you. Vindicate, obscure, expedite, disseminate, and concurrent. So
Okay,
just take a screenshot of this slide, and then what I want you to do is just write a quick paragraph using these 5 words.
okay,
All right. Just let me know
all
when
right.
you take a screenshot.
Yeah, I just did.
Okay, cool. All right, so get that done, and then I'll get editing to your own work.
Okay,
Mhm. All right. Mhm, mhm. All right, Alex, how are we doing with the paragraph?
Um, I'm like halfway through.
Halfway
I
through?
have a little trouble to use the words.
Yeah, no problem. Although the task mentions a paragraph, if you needed to make it a little longer, don't be shy to whatsoever, all right?
Okay.
Try to do what you can in the in 3 minutes. It's okay if you don't use all of the words, but I do want to have enough time to edit your paragraph, all right?
Okay. How are you? I don't know how to use concurrent in a sentence.
Concurrent. So, with concurrent, so the events happen concurrently.
Oh, okay.
Mhm. Let's take a look. So, when Bob went to school today, the first thing he did was go to class. In class, there was a puzzle on the table with many little puzzle pieces stacked on top. Uh, instead of many, little, what you can say is various, um, petite. Let's play around with the wording. And what I do here, Alex, is if you use a word that you may think might be basic, like many, see if you can type it in on Google, write down synonyms, and then see what you like. How I built my own sense of vocabulary in when it comes to writing is when you just type it in on Google, find some synonyms that are like relevant to the sentence you're trying to make, and then after that, start using the ones that you like. And then the more you often you use it, the more it becomes second nature to you. So then rather than just using many, you're starting to use that new word now.
Okay.
All right. Mm, to get a good view of all the pieces, he disseminated them all across. We don't need all, just across the table. Then he started to work after 5 minutes. Bob successfully lined up all the pieces and they spelled a sentence. On the surface, it was just a jumble of words, but he realized it was an idiom. Try to avoid using actually. Um,
Okay.
Grammatically, it's not the best. So you might get points off for that. If a teacher was saying that, some of them are real works. They're kind of a pain. So when they see actually, they might be very rude and just be like, give you a point off just because. So I'm just saying that for your for the future.
Okay.
I'm speaking from experience here, long ago. With an obscure meaning. He quickly helped his friends to expedite the process, and near the end, his friends had we don't need the had. We can just say his friends completed it. However, one student who got a different who got a different what
Oh, answer.
answer became angry and he vindicated Bob for cheating and helping his friends. Angry, Bob stormed out of the room. However, when he came back, the teacher revealed that both answers were correct and they were concurrent. Okay. So here, yeah, everything looks good. Concurrent was used fine. Nothing too major. Let's go look into your first paragraph. So here, again, just more word choice. So here, instead of saying a lot of time, I would say frequently, right?
Oh,
Um, Never admit it if they were wrong. I would say admit their faults instead. And the last thing that also says a lot about, I would just say instead of that, you could say reveals. Uh,
okay.
and then again, reveal, and because to avoid repetition, we say mentions here. Uh,
Okay.
so here it says it mentions the parents' realization of their ignorance that um is against their son. I missed that one. Is against their son. See, always rereading your
Okay.
and the son's true understanding of them. Uh-huh. And then you missed a mistake and then you needed a comma here. And then in terms of your understanding with the giant waterfalls, seems like this one was a real pain for you. So the giant waterfall, remember, is the son didn't choose the emotions. The parents mistakenly
Oh,
understood their sons to be angry like a giant waterfall, but the parents realized that their son views of them as streams, sweet pools, basically tolerable.
oh,
All right. Any questions about that?
okay. No.
No? Okay. So I'm gonna stop sharing. Okay, so for next English class, just review the vocabulary and the themes that were discussed with today. I will also recommend, you remember that website, Manchester Phrasebook?
Yeah.
Uh, do you have it saved with you or did you lose the link?
Yeah. I have it.
Okay, so then can you go through it? Because we're gonna do a little task with it. That might be a little time consuming, but if you know Manchester phrase book well, then it should be good. Actually, let me show you which tab I want you to focus on specifically before you go. Share screen. Okay. So here, describing methods tab. So when you click the describing methods tab, I want you to go through all of these, right? Learn when to use each phrase,
Okay.
okay? Because we're gonna do a task regarding this tab here.
Okay.
When you get the chance, just go through it whenever you're available. All right, any questions for